Radio Sputnik.
The US should consider a cyber attack against Russia to retaliate for Moscow's meddling in the US elections. This is according to US Senator John McCain, who wrote in his new book that unless Russian President Vladimir Putin is made to regret his decision, he will return to the scene of the crime again and again. McCain, who is battling brain cancer, wrote that although sanctions against Putin and his friends serve as deterrence, it is time for America to go on the offensive in the information war with Russia. He wrote, quote, "To make Vladimir Putin deeply regret his assault on the foundation of our democracy, free and fair elections, we should seriously consider retaliating for the kinds of weapons he used." And according to McCain, Vladimir Putin damaged Hillary Clinton's campaign and encouraged US government dysfunction and, quote, "sees evidence of his success every day in our polarization and gridlock." In his book, McCain rejected claims made by Russia Today that he was a Russia hater. "I do not hate Russia. I want for it the same freedom, justice and prosperity that Americans have. I hate Putin, though," he wrote.
And joining us live over the phone to discuss this in further depth is Curran, a Professor of Cybersecurity, School of Computing Engineering and Intelligence Systems, Department of Computing Engineering and the Built Environment at Ulster University. Very good morning to you, Kevin. Welcome to Radio Sputnik.
Thanks, Jason. Thank you.
Very strong words by Senator John McCain we've just been listening to. In your view, how justified is the Senator's claims that Russia has encouraged US government dysfunction by using cyber weapons? Is it even possible? I mean, this has been going on for a good, 15 months now, and there's still been no proof, but they're still banging the same drum now. Senator McCain's been renowned for his comments globally with regard to certain areas and jurisdictions and encouraging conflict, if you like. Well, what's your take on all this?
Yeah, well, I mean, really he's come up with kind of warmongering talk, really, about asking the US to conduct an offensive cyber attack on Russia. But I would caution him against that because, again, I doubt if he's that technical. I mean, and conventional war differs greatly from the cyber war because really cyber war is down to tools which will allow countries, for instance, to be able to conduct sabotage on systems, whether they're nuclear systems or power grids or key infrastructure within a company. They can also be used for espionage, and they can also be used for denial of service, which is simply where you stop certain sites from working by sending too many packets to them. But the problem with using cyber warfare tools, which is really, hacking tools, is that, okay, you might gain whatever you want to do if it works for you against a certain country that you're attacking, but the fact is that will be analyzed. What happened? What was the weakness? And the country which was attacked will be able to later reverse engineer and see what the code did and how it worked. And inevitably, they'll be able to use that then. And we've seen this with previous cyber attacks where certain code has been used, certain very, very clever code, well written, no doubt nation-sponsored, nation-state-sponsored. And again, that gets repurposed. So what you're doing is, by spending money as a country on these offensive tools which enable you to do these nefarious activities, but it always leaks. The code will always leak. And it's not so much even a worry that the other country gets it, because the other country, it'll probably retaliate and respond in kind. But the fact is, the hackers will get this, and we, the public, the citizens of the internet, we suffer because these tools are usually exceptional. That they cover their tracks. They can get in through so many systems. They have modules within them that they know when they're within what we call these vaults, which are used by security companies to analyze them, that they turn off, that they are wonderful tools. But the fact is, they will leak into the people that we do not want. And we then, the citizens of the world, that our systems, our business systems become weaker as a result. So I would caution any country against developing tools, really, and the release of them, just to expect that these will come back to haunt them.
Yeah, it's. I mean, notwithstanding the technological element to all this, which you're explaining very articulately, and the effects that this could have, and the counter information that's being shared as well. I mean, for a senator in the United States government to actually go on record and encourage this kind of dysfunction that's already emanating in the US is dysfunction, and all this polarisation and geopolitical environment that we're currently sat in is nothing more than outrageous, is it? I mean, have you got any non-computing points of view with regard to this particular statement? Surely this can't be sanctioned by the US government, surely.
Yeah, well, from a non-computing point of view, I don't like aggression. You know, I just don't believe that is ever helpful by leaders, especially. I think we should always be looking to close the gaps. We have more in common than we don't have, and I think it's never helpful. And I'd also caution again, of course, Russia's been blamed for a lot of attacks by the United States, and again, the United States are blamed, and then North Korea gets a lot of blame, and other countries get a lot of blame, and China, of course. There's certain enemies that the United States have, and that they'll troll up time and time again, and whether they are true or not, but attribution when it comes to online activity and hacking and things is very, very difficult, because if a country wants to attack another country and do something, whether it's fake news or whether it's just espionage or something else, the people behind this, the people who develop these tools and conduct these offensive campaigns, know how to hide their trails of originality of the code itself. They know how to put in things which will possibly link it to another country, and to throw the, and to, falsely leave the attribution with another country. So therefore, it's very, very difficult, unless you're absolutely sure, to be able to attribute an attack to one nation or another, because again, all you're dealing with is lines of code, and of course, that even if you look for the source and the origin of these attacks coming in from a geographical point of view, they're also bounced around the world by servers and proxies, and again, that the people who conduct these attacks will never launch it from their own building as such, from their own network, that they'll always use these proxies to make it look like it came from somewhere else. So again, we just got to be careful when it comes to attribution of attacks, because, again, a lot of things are being done in the code and in the way they're conducted to hide the origin of the attacks.
So you're saying then, Kevin, that it's virtually impossible to carry out an undetected cyber attack. Is that what you're saying?
No, you mean you can. You can conduct cyber attack. There's companies, organizations, and countries' systems which are penetrated right now, and they don't know about it. That there is clever malware out there which is hiding in plain sight. So again, that the most successful hacks are the ones that we haven't discovered. We discover them years later. So there are hacks out there. There are vulnerabilities that exist where people are actually exfiltrating material from companies. Again, you can also conduct attacks where you've hidden where your origin is and who you are. But again, of course, attacks are carried out mostly and eventually with a lot of trawling through it and a lot more supporting evidence that you can have a reasonable assumption of where it came from and who conducted it. But not all attacks can definitely immediately be attributed to one source definitively.
You're a key expert in this particular area of expertise. How would you compare the cyber defence capabilities of Russia and the United States from your experience and your embedded knowledge? Are they very similar, or is one country weaker than the other? Perhaps you could just share your knowledge with us.
It's a difficult one. Again, yes. The countries which definitely have the most skillful teams would be the United States, Russia, China. It's hard to estimate actually how good North Korea is really. But again, generally it's a correlation between the size of the country, their military budget, and the size of their cyber teams. Again, and it would be very difficult to say who is the best, because it really comes down to what is this, really in some ways it comes down to how much of the portion of the budget is being put into the cyber warfare team. So again, you can just make estimates on how much a country spends on its military, and then you could try to see, well, how much does it siphon off to cyber warfare, because again, that's increasingly becoming very, very important, because now you can do as much damage to any country without ever moving a tank or a plane off the runway, just by doing it over the internet. Again, it's also very difficult because, at least with military experts, when they're comparing the arsenals of other countries, they're able to have their spy satellites look to see how many tanks they have, how many planes they have, how many submarines that they should have under the sea, and how many ships they have. So that's much easier for countries to keep tabs on the size of the other countries' arsenals. But when it comes to cyber warfare, of course, really these are hidden, in buildings really, and it's hard to estimate the size of the teams and how good each of the people are, because it comes down to it as well, that how much are they paying? How much is a country paying the experts? Because, again, there's a big difference between someone who's average and someone who's at the top of their game, who could work for Google or Facebook or Microsoft. And they're the people that these cyber warfare teams need to have in their teams, again. And one expert who's really good at what to do could be worth 20 ordinary people.
Interesting indeed. In your opinion, what are the main cyber threats that the world is currently living through? What main challenges do the countries face, and where could these threats come from? Are they from the likes of North Korea and these types of countries that we haven't got a specific insight into?
It's possible. I mean, yeah, but in some ways, really, it's the things that ordinary businesses are seeing, and consumers, again, the ransomware which is coming in and locking people's machines and files, and people have to use a cryptocurrency like Bitcoin to get their files released. And the same is now happening with company websites where denial of service attacks are coming down. And again, with denial of service attacks, of course, countries, nation states are using these again to bring down critical infrastructure within the country as well. And with nation state sponsored hacks, again, they're always looking for something like the power grids and the key supply chains within a country as well. But of course, we've seen a lot of propaganda being attributed to countries as well, which again can have a key factor as well, because a lot of people just get their news online now, get their news from Facebook. So again, that's pretty effective. Again, it might not be seen as a conventional cyber attack tool, but as part of a hybrid attack, propaganda works well as a cyber offense by countries.
It's been fascinating talking to you, Kevin. Thank you for joining us live on Radio Sputnik and airing your thoughts with regard to this subject matter. That was Kevin Curran, a professor of cybersecurity, School of Computing, Engineering and Intelligence Systems at Ulster University.
24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We give you the most essential information out there. Radio Sputnik, telling the untold.
Radio Sputnik News.